Oh my God. Okay. Well,
Yeah. So that's
time flies.
I know it
Yeah.
certainly has. I've done this longer than I've done, anything else in my life.
Ha.
Is Alex still with the company?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
hmm
Yep.
Yeah, as our CTO and
Hmm.
spends a lot of time in the trenches.
Okay,
Hmm.
I've never met Alex, so definitely
Oh,
send my
that's so
regards.
funny. He's a man of mystery.
Yeah,
He's not that mysterious. He's just mostly mucking around on
very busy.
computers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's true. Yeah, prefers
Yeah.
computers. Hey, we're live. We should probably say something.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. Hello, we're live. Hi everybody. So we can see everyone now today, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Um,
I did a bad job of it. I'll figure out how to do a better job of it next time. But
we will do a better job next time.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
maybe that can be
But
our
yeah,
slogan for this.
we'll
Yeah.
do a better job next time.
Yes. Film and Games Podcast.
We'll
Yeah.
do a better
Live
job.
streams.
That's. I think I might need to get that trademarked. Yeah, that's good. All right. So, but yeah, speaking of doing a better job, let's do the intro.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the Game-Based Learning Review, everyone. Welcome to the Game-Based Learning Review live stream presented by Filament Games. This is your go-to destination for all things game-based learning on the World Wide Web. As always, today we will be exploring the intersection of games and education, and with us is a special guest, Ed Metz. Hello, Ed.
Hey guys.
So, Ed is a developmental psychologist, educational researcher, and for 20 years was the program manager of the Small Business Innovation Research Program at the U.S. Department of Education. That's SBIR. You'll hear us refer to it that way throughout the episode today. The program he led seed funded tons of important game changing innovations in the education space, used by more than 100 million students, and our schools and students are certainly better off for this. Since his time at the Department of Education ended about a year ago, thanks to the work of Doge, Ed is now a visiting scholar at Columbia University. So we worked with Ed through the SBIR program starting way back in 2010 to bring one of our classic titles to life, Reach for the Sun, which is what we're going to be playing today, as you can see on
Hmm.
the screen. So welcome in, Ed. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, it's so good to be back together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Feels good. So I think I wanted to start off just learning a little bit more about what you're up to now as Norton is getting the game up and running and maybe pulling up the first level here.
I'm
So
on it.
tell us a little bit more about the experience, what you're doing at Columbia University, and also just kind of like the ending transition of your time at Department of Ed there. I'm sure that was certainly a dramatic and interesting thing to be a part of.
Dramatic is an understatement. Yeah, when you do something for 20 years, you guys know that well. You just hit your 20-year mark.
We did.
We did.
So
Thank you.
congratulations, and that's
Thank
kind
you.
of a synergy here that we all grew up together. Uh,
It's true.
Amazing.
Hmm.
So hopefully, Filament Games doesn't have a similar ending in its near future that I had at Department of Ed. But
We'll
of
knock on
course,
wood
you
for
won't.
Yeah,
that.
we've thought about it. It's a dramatically uncertain landscape, but we're doing all right. We're doing all
We're
right.
hanging in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that was just a joke. Of course, that would never happen to you guys. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, 20 years. It was not something that I was planning, but took the opportunity to have the silver lining lead the way. So Doge's silver lining is to leave the nest and make it happen in the real world. So thankful to have the connection at Columbia University, Teachers College, Digital Futures Institute, where I'm interested in how to scale evidence-based research into product. That's kind of some of the stuff I did at SBIR.
Hmm.
Also,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
really interested in how to support the ed tech startups like you guys and doing more and better research to inform your product development and to help you guys launch commercially. So that's kind of what I've been doing.
Fantastic. All right, very cool. So that sounds it sounds like that's a logical continuation of the work you've been doing for your whole career is just basically finding innovation out there and helping it enter the market because innovation is something the market loves, but the market is a very challenging thing to navigate and penetrate. So I think people really need that help and also those insights that you get from doing it for decades. So let's actually go back a little bit to your time at the Department of Education, starting way back in 2004. Were you leading SBIR from the start, or how'd you get your start in the department itself?
Yeah, that's actually a really great story for all of you kids out there who are watching today. When you get an opportunity dropped on your desk, take it seriously. So I was at Department of Ed for probably about 3 or 4 months. I was kind of doing program officer stuff, helping out with some research programs in different areas. And the commissioner at the time, Lynn Okagaki, came into my office and dropped a cardboard box on my desk. And I was like, "What's that?" She goes, "That's our SBIR program." I had no idea what she was talking about. I was like, "What's that?" She's like, "It's a seed fund of for-profit companies who are developing ed tech." I said, "Well, I have no background in ed tech at all." And she said, "Do you want to do it or not?" I was like, "Sounds great." So I thumbed through the box. There were about 35 projects, and couldn't make sense of any of them. Had no idea what was going on. But I I think I knew enough to know that ed tech was an area that was potentially a really exciting area to dive into. So that's kind of how it all started.
Awesome. From
Yeah.
from the humble beginnings of a box of unsorted items. I like it. Which kind of leads into my next question. What was the program like back in those days? Were the projects, outside of being nascent,
Yeah.
were the projects focusing on learning games in particular, or was it like ed tech general?
So the word game was not allowed to be used. If you use the word game in a proposal, you're generally going to get a zero. So
Amazing.
I'll
Wow.
I'll talk to you about that, I think, in a minute.
Hmm.
In terms of what was in the box, none of the projects really had much going on in terms of research. They didn't have a researcher to help to inform the iterative development process that
Hmm.
is gold standard now. The products were all over the board. It's pre iPhone, pre iPad, pre App Store, pre Steam, so that
Mm,
it was really hodgepodge. A lot
yeah.
of learning management, kind of data platforms to help administrators. Yeah, you can check out the abstracts on the website from the 2004 or 5 era to see what I'm talking about
Hmm.
if you're so inclined.
It
You
actually
can.
sounds like a lot of fun to go see.
Yeah.
I actually
Well,
am
and you raised
curious. Oh, go ahead, Brandon. Sorry.
I was going to say you raise a really interesting point about how so many of our current ed tech innovations are shaped by the giants of distribution in the space. It's
Yes.
like it's interesting to think about how these platforms and devices have a sort of gravitational effect on how we think about how people may learn. So yeah, I think that I'd be interested to go read that hodgepodge as well, just to see like what were people thinking of before the entire world had to fit on a smartphone and that kind of thing.
Yes.
It's a fascinating thought.
Yeah, there was some CD-ROMs in the box, and
Sure.
uh,
Hmm.
I couldn't demo anything. There wasn't even the YouTube, the ability for developer to send a link in to watch a demo. So it was prehistoric times, but that was what was the opportunity. Give the commissioner all the credit. She forced me to come up with like an outreach plan because there hadn't been outreach to the community. So I don't think a lot of startups knew about the program. So I uh, I kind of dove into the literature, and game-based learning was something I thought was interesting. So I saw Constance Steinkühler, I saw Kurt Squire, I saw
Hmm.
Jim G,
Yep.
Eric Klopfer,
Hmm.
and I was like, where are these people going to be? So Games and Learning Society in Madison, Wisconsin was I made a pitch and I got approval to go to this interesting game-based learning conference in Madison, and I flew over there and I met Dan and Dan in like a corridor under a stairway. I think Dan, right?
Sounds about
And
right. Yep.
That's where they do all their recruitment and
Yeah, that's our. Yeah, that's the
networking,
prime real estate.
the networking alley. Yeah.
And you guys had a, I think, a National Geographic
That's right. Yes.
award at the time.
Yep.
And you told me about it. I was like, oh, you've got to apply to this program that I'm leading. You know, I think you were interested, and kind of met a lot of other great
Mhm.
people at that event. So then, like, the next submission came around, and I looked in the list, and I was devastated because you guys weren't didn't apply. I was like, what happened? I called you up, and thankfully, I think you applied the next year.
Yeah. It turns out it's hard to apply for those things. That was like our first proper run on a real grant proposal. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, paying for my sins now because I always knew how hard it was to apply, but I didn't have to apply. And now I'm out there in the real world and I'm thinking about applying, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is murder to apply for this
yeah.
thing.
Well, it is interesting
Yeah,
now to
I've
think
done one or
about.
two myself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Also, Pitzer has been a critical critical in our grant proposals.
Oh, good for you,
Yeah.
Pitzer. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry to veer into dystopia, but I've been fascinated with the idea of what AI is going to do to the world of proposal generation. Um, because there's a large, rigorous format with lots and lots of questions. And a lot of the initial hurdle for application really is you have to very carefully examine this large set of requirements and make sure you get all the things put together. And AI LLMs are really good at that, but they're also really good at just shoveling a bunch of manure into a box and then sending it out. So I have to assume that grant organizations uh, are going to get exponentially more grant proposals that are going to be exponentially worse. That's like, I don't
Oh,
know.
you know, the formatting and the thickness of proposals dramatically improved. So did the number of bullet points.
Oh, yeah, right.
Which
Yeah.
um, I there was a sea change from, you know, 3 years ago to 2 years ago
Mhm.
when Gen AI launched, and the quality, I think, the formatting, the
Mhm.
sort of writing dramatically improved on a surface level. I think if you're an expert and you dive in,
Yeah.
you can see through it. But yeah, I've heard from other colleagues in philanthropy and in government that the numbers of proposals are through the roof. But I guess that just means that they'll use AI to score and review and make their awards in the future. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's interesting too, right?
Yeah, we could eventually just recuse ourselves entirely from the process and let the AI handle everything,
Right. Well, it's funny. It is part of what we're, when I mentioned uncertain times earlier, right? Like that's like one of the components is like where is the remaining pocket to actually demonstrate real expertise? If AI are writing these things and AI is reading them, like it's really someone has to come back around and reverse engineering how to give a damn. Like if there's no one, if no one cared about who wrote it, no one cared about who read it. Like it'll be once the grant's awarded, that's like the moment when everyone will go, oh, now what? Which maybe
right?
happens anyway. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Um, I'm I'm generally pretty positive about the ability for these tools to help people arrange and present information. I just It's just a huge divide between someone who's using it to express the ideas they have and then someone who's going to it to generate the ideas for them because they don't have them. And that's still evident in the work that's done, but it's harder to suss out than ever.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I see the unlimited potential for creativity, for generating,
Mhm.
creating. Um, and if you're a kid today and you have these tools at your
Mhm.
disposal, that's incredibly exciting. But then,
Mhm.
yeah, how can the science of learning kind of be on board, and our kids
Mhm.
going to have the ability to think how to use it. But I guess for 53-year-olds like me, um, hopefully we can already think, and maybe it's able to be used in great ways
Right.
and
Yeah.
faster for a lot of things that we do too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, speaking of interesting technologies, one interesting thing about technology is that my camera has died, so I can't see myself
Oh
anymore. So
yeah, look at that.
yeah, it just went away. I keep trying to reactivate it, and it's
Yeah.
just like no. So I will just be a disembodied voice going forward. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
The other thing
If I
I
had a
wanted to say,
screenshot of you, Brandon, I could just put it on the screen, but
oh, that'd be
unfortunately,
really good.
yeah,
Yeah, you could put my cartoon avatar up.
yeah.
Well, so the other thing though I wanted to say though is that, or the other thing I wanted to ask is that I think we are at a sort of interesting time with that technology, and it brings me back to the idea that you were saying where back when the SBIR program was first getting off the ground, you weren't even allowed to say games. So when you brought Filament in, or when they finally got around to applying,
Hmm.
did you see pushback on that? Was that something where you kind of had to fight for them and advocate for them against folks who were skeptical about the idea of learning with games?
Well, thanks for bringing me back to that conversation when you guys did not apply. We talked again, and I said, okay, you got to get it in this year. I said, but I have one bit of advice for you: don't use the word game in your proposal. And I think Dan Norton's like, but we're filming games. I
That
so
sounds
I said,
like
well,
me. That was probably me.
it
Yeah.
was you. I'm like, we'll call it a simulation,
Hmm.
call it something else. So
Mm.
so thankfully you guys stuck to your name and sent it in, and I think you broke this invisible
Taboo,
ceiling
maybe.
that
Hmm.
shattered it. And I think thank those three reviewers who you'll never know who they are, but I knew who they are because I told them a few years later, hey, you guys broke this crazy thing and got a game in there, and opened the floodgates, because after you got that 2010 award, about half the awards the next 10 years were for learning games.
Holy cow! I didn't know that.
Wow,
That's so cool.
that is really cool. That was our Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
So there wasn't pushback. Yeah, exactly. You guys were that kind of new version of Oregon Trail. There wasn't
Hmm.
pushback. I think people just thought it made great sense. We know kids aren't engaged. We know that in games kids can fail and
Hmm.
learn from their failure. It all makes perfect sense. Um,
Yeah, and
maybe
I
in
remember when I first started at Filament about 10 years ago, that was a big part of the messaging, was just engagement. That was the drum we were beating, is like, these games are going to help
Hmm.
kids who are otherwise just checked out in the classroom. Um, and I think that is still a big part of the message. Of course, the message has gotten more complex since then. And I think one thing that I'm very encouraged by is it's less about, you know, why are games valid as a technology. I think that is a settled matter. I
Hmm.
think it's now about what can games actually do, like what kind of impacts and real outcomes can they create which are measurable. And I
Right.
think that is the next big frontier in learning games, is making games where you have provable large scale data sets that demonstrate impact in learning. um, and I see that that's where the industry is going in the long term, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I do think too, Brandon. There's like obviously, we talked a little bit about the longer trajectory of games and learning before Filament, right? There was the CD-ROM era,
Yep.
lots of boutique games for computer enthusiasts, that were buying, these games, and then there was things like Oregon Trail, Carmen San Diego, some classics that like got into schools. Um, and Filament really grew up at like I think there were like two junctures. One, right, was this juncture of new research and rhetoric from the Jim G and Kurt Squire and Constance Steinkühler and all those awesome people who were identifying what actually made the loops of game-based learning effective and work. And that was what was like fueled Filament's design methodology. But the other thing was that the way that games were being played was changing. A lot of Filament's first, I don't know how many years were of development were all in Flash, which for I suppose there are probably actual adults right now who'll be like, "What was Flash? I don't know what that was. What is this
Yeah,
time?"
actually.
Yeah, so Flash was a web-based plugin that allowed you to play interactives and games right on the internet. It was it also had a companion development environment, which shout out to Old Flash. Is one of the coolest dev environments ever. It was like a really interesting hybrid between a creative tool and a programming tool.
Hmm.
For a studio like ours, it's always been sort of built on the idea of small teams working together creatively. Flash was shaped like a small creative team environment, right? Where the place where something was programmed was 2 inches away from where it was animated. Like it just all made sense. Anyway, very cool. But that was the time, right? That was the time when you could deploy something in Flash on the web, um, and get those things practically playable in schools. Then I guess yeah, then gaming shifted as well, right? Like we had the continued march of Steam and other dedicated PC gaming platforms. And that's what I'm playing this game on today. This was originally built in Flash, but I'm playing it now on Steam. You
Hmm.
can still get it. It still runs great. I'm in ultra graphics mode. Um, right? But we also saw the death of Flash. It was, Adobe more or less is like, we're rolling this up. It's not a thing we're going to do anymore. Um, and there was a sudden massive dip in the level of interaction that you could do on the web. And that was also in the rise of, like you mentioned, Brandon, phones and app based that became the dominant environment for new learning gamey stuff
Hmm.
was these tiny rectangles with the only button is when you mash your finger on it. That's the interaction size and space. And also the time expectations, right? Like how long will you play a game on your phone? I don't know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe. There were tablets, right, which was suggested longer form and larger interaction. But yeah, gaming like changed shape again into those devices. Yeah. Anyway, and there's been a lot of those types of things, like the ways that games and the devices that people use to access information have shifted, like have led us to have to sort of rebuild new ideas for how these games will work. Uh,
A great story.
yeah, yeah. It's I hadn't really thought about it like that until I said it out loud now. So that's something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I,
Brandon, just looping back to your point
uh-huh.
about whether there was kind of headwinds for games when we
Yeah.
started funding them. I don't think there was uh, pushback about funding learning games, but certainly there was not research on whether or not they worked or not. So I think the
Yeah.
field, that was a big question for many years. We
Hmm.
funded two $10 million R&D centers around learning games back right when you guys got the first award. And and the evidence now 15 years later, I mean, there is a ton of research and meta-analyses,
Hmm.
individual studies on
Yeah.
game-based learning. I don't think people really ask that question as much, but
Hmm.
it's still not maybe as mainstream. Maybe the games haven't been designed to replace assessment.
Right.
They the
Yeah.
how well they fit. But yeah, that's another interesting kind of part about this discussion that we could kind of talk about that for an hour too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, having drawn on a number of those studies for my own writing and research purposes, I think a lot of them are, like you say, a lot of them are meta-analyses. And I think that's the thing where I've perceived a gap is like, I would love to see a specific case study around a specific platform that is around a specific topic area and dig really deep into that, because I think there is a sort of qualitative nature to some of the findings as well, that I've encountered out there,
Hmm.
and I think that's another, you know traditionally has been a sort of an awkward spot for assessing games is the information we're getting out of them quantitative or qualitative. It's sort of
Hmm.
a classic divide of, how we measure and express efficacy. Um, so
Yeah.
I want to take a quick aside actually and have Dan talk a little bit about what he's doing in the game, because I think it'd be cool to talk about the game as well. So, which level are we in right now, Dan?
I'm doing the toad lily. I just crushed
Okay,
the sunflower, which is sort of the tutorial level.
cool.
But
I think
I'm
I thought I saw it. It succumbed to winter's embrace. Now, does that always happen? That always happens, right?
I
Or
mean,
is
you've
there
been
like a way to
outside,
that?
Brandon. You know how we're in Wisconsin, man. You know that's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
currently succumbing to winter's
Yes,
embrace
we're all succumbing to winter's
through a
embrace.
variety of skin conditions and that kind of thing. But, but specifically with this game, is it
Yeah.
possible to finish a level without succumbing to winter's
No.
embrace, or is it inevitable?
No, your goal in this game is to chart a course of plant growth across the plant anatomy in order to facilitate you flowering and fruiting so that you can reproduce before winter comes.
Got it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's not a quest for immortality. It's a quest to make more sunflowers next year. Uh,
So we cannot beat winter is the point in this
yeah,
game, but
yeah,
we can hedge our bets. So
yeah.
so where are you at right now in the process? Tell me a bit
Well,
about it.
I'm very early on the Toad Lily, and so the way this game works is that it's a resource management game. There's a real time version. I'm playing in strategy mode, so I could ramble at will without worrying about losing the game.
Cool.
Um, but the way basically what you do is that you get to choose how this plant grows. Like you can invest in different components. Like I could build a vertical stem. The vertical stem would cost me uh, these nutrients, like starch, nutrients, and water, are my three sort of resources, and each piece costs resources. Um, and they also increase the capacity of my plant. You can see I would gain 2 water and 3 starch storage if I bought this. So I'm trying to build my plant so that it can gain enough resources and grow its flowers soon enough that I have enough time to pollinate them and then fruit them so that they turn into fruit before winter comes. So some of it's a little bit like you guys familiar with that ancient little wooden and metal game called Shoot the Moon? It's like 2 rods and there's like a little metal ball on top. You have to open the rods to make the ball start moving. If you open them too fast, the ball drops out. But if you don't open them enough, the ball doesn't go anywhere. Maybe not.
No.
Maybe that's a weird thing. Well, anyway, so if you overinvest in plant infrastructure, you won't have enough time to build to flower and fruit. But if you go in too early on flowering and fruiting, you won't have enough resources to get them all finished. So your plant needs to grow efficiently and aggressively so that it's ready to pivot to flowering and fruiting before the season's over. So
Mm,
and you do that by, yeah, trying to figure out how to spend your resources efficiently and investing in infrastructure and then going in on the kill at the end. So on the
right.
sunflower, I got 3 out of 4 sunflowers. There definitely
Okay.
is a way to do it better, but I didn't get to do it. So
All right. Well, let's see what
yeah.
you
And
can do
Dan,
with
were
Toad Lily.
you in the like original team, like with the art and the design of this, the structure, the mechanic?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. So I wasn't the sole designer. I think the original creative concept was mine, and I definitely remember slaving over the spreadsheet that drives these parts.
Yeah,
Uh,
all games are just spreadsheets.
well,
Doing
That's so
that's
sad to know.
it's
I
not
didn't know
quite
that till
true.
now.
I will say that it's a weakness of mine. If you let me design a game, the odds are that it's a spreadsheet once removed is pretty high. I love I love grids of information. I love dimensional information. Let's call it that. Say it like that. It's interesting. Yeah. So it's built like that so that in order to be good at this game, you need to be thinking about what are the parts of a plant, what resources do they take, and what resources do they store, and how can I use that information to grow this plant tactically, right? So we're using the idea that the player is going to be using strategy to carefully consider plant anatomy and function as kind of our way to get the player to demonstrate knowledge, right? So when they come out of the other side of this, um, the big story that they'll know, no matter what, right, is that plants grow over the course of a season with a goal of gathering resources to fruit and flower. Like, and that may sound like a maybe a simple objective, but to actually understand the idea as a systemic idea, to be able to like look at any plant you see and then think about it from that perspective is, I would say, is a transformative type of learning objective, right? That's like a big picture, like wow, I look out across the yard and it's actually like a giant collection of real-time strategy games of every plant going through its epic annual struggle for survival, and it's just happening while you're drinking a lemonade. So I think that's really cool. And for players who want to nerd out a little bit more, they can be like, oh yeah, there's starch, there's nutrients, there's water. The root structure is particularly seems like it's oh, the root structure is where nutrients really come from, right? That's the deal, right? They do a little bit of water, but it's actually more about nutrients. That makes sense because the nutrients come from the soil. So if you want to nerd out with how it works, like the information's there for you. We even have our, I will say, maybe a critique of our game. We do have this delightful photosynthesis equation up here, which I know I've ignored the entire time I'm playing today. But someone, someone out there, some kid's gonna go, what? 6H2O6CO2 plus light? Uh, like they're gonna look at that and think about it, right? So, yeah, and that's actually like one of those interesting components of like we've made lots of games that are like we have a core loop of mastery demonstration, right? Where we're like, in order to say that, in order to win this game or to be good at this game, you're gonna have to demonstrate you know this stuff. And games are great at that, right? Games are great at creating a cycle of mastery. But games are also just great at creating exciting and interesting contexts, right? Like this is a space where photosynthesis is something that's interesting to think about, and you might actually be drawn into the idea. The game doesn't demand that you use this photosynthesis equation to play it, but it's available. It's something to think about. So I like the idea that games sort of lay out, you know, some paths where you might take them later, or you never know what neuron will fire like 2 months later when you're just thinking about that game experience you had. So it's a nice sort of blend there.
I always loved the idea of an educator using Reach for the Sun the day before they were going to do the photosynthesis unit.
Right.
Uh, imagine everybody kind of
Mhm.
just played a fun game the night before for homework and then came to class and then
Mhm.
looked at that diagram on page 379 that all caused our eyes to glaze over
Mhm.
back in the day. Yeah, but just to interpret that through this game and the photosynthesis model there, I think it was a great use of this game.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a really good one.
So do you want to take us through a play of the Toad Lily here? See if and
Oh,
maybe talk
sure.
talk us through your decisions as you're making them.
Okay. Well, I know one thing, right, is that I've been trying to prioritize roots to get started, just so that I
Okay.
don't wind up being bottlenecked on nutrients. Um, I think I may have overdone it though. I'm not sure though. But I do have enough to be able to buy a leaf. And as you can see, a leaf is actually pretty good on a toad lily. Each plant has different metrics, by the way. So the leaf, uh, the leaf is worth 333 for across the board. That's
Got
pretty good.
got a
Um,
nerf Toad Lilies. They're OP.
yeah, that's what I've got. Yeah, so that is good. Um, yeah, so I think I'll advance the turn. See what I get. I was definitely. Oh, I'm maxed out on nutrients. Oh, I'm maxed out on everything. Um,
Uh-oh.
So that means I should probably think about more capacity.
Time to build.
Yep. So roots give me good capacity. I'm now behind on starch. So maybe I actually really want stems for more starch. Let's do that. It's a fun plant, isn't it? And you know what? This gives me, again, this is across the board capacity. And again, I think one thing that's nice is kind of emergent, right? It's this plant like I laid down a lot of roots and now I'm kind of growing and building leaves. And it's like, hey, this is kind of how it works, man. So, it's nice to have the game systemically replicate the actual process.
Dan, where's the music?
Oh, I turned it down. It's in here. It's nice though.
Yeah, that's the most beautiful
Yeah,
score
yeah.
game
Yeah,
that we have out
you
there.
could turn it up a little bit. I wouldn't mind. Yeah, it's uh, let's see. The art direction of this game, I think, is pretty exemplary.
Yeah.
Pretty special. I really enjoy just the atmospheric
Mhm.
effects, like the rain in the foreground and the insects and butterflies
Mhm.
kind of coming in and out of the scene. All this stuff is just there to create interest and make it more lovely. I think
Mhm.
so. Was Trevor Brown was the art director at the time?
Yes.
At
Yes, the
Filament.
original score.
Yep. Yeah, Josh Bartles on score. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
gosh. Yeah, and then I think
Yeah.
Rachel Berkowitz was playing the violin for at least some of the tracks. I don't know if it's on
Yeah.
all of them, but I
Shout
remember.
out to Josh Bartles and Rachel Berkowitz, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember seeing some live rendition or two of those songs, and it
Mhm.
was. I was like, what kind of, that was like right when I started
Mhm.
Filament, and I was like, what kind of magical workplace
Mhm.
have I entered?
I will say
Um,
that this game, the team working on this game felt like this took this as an opportunity to make something beautiful. I think that's evident, that even though it is, this simple game, uh, they really they really put a lot of time into. I mean, just look at like the multi-level depth rain effect, right? There's big drops and little drops, so that they're going in different directions, and
mhm.
there's just a million little I love yous all over the place inside this
Yeah,
game. Yeah.
not lots
And
of nice little
it's
parallax in the
fif-
background.
it's
Hmm.
15 years old too, so
Yeah.
it
Right.
stood the test of time to be watching it now and
Yeah.
not wanting anything more
Yeah.
out of
It's
this visual.
it's funny at the beginning of the game. It says like, "Hey, the Reach for the Sun is like a graphically intensive game." So
It's true.
you gotta set your settings, right? Because again, like we didn't know what types of devices were going on, and this was pushing what Flash can do.
Right.
I mean, I really want to grow a flower. I think it's getting to be time.
It's very of its era in terms of its aspect ratio too.
Hmm.
That 4:3 is
Hmm.
very unusual these days.
Hmm. All right, I'm feeling pretty good. I, there's one. 2020. All right, let's see what I get. If I got enough this round, I'm gonna do it. It
So
might arguably to be too early for a flower, but darn it,
Mm.
it's so
you have to go
pretty.
for it.
Look at
It's gonna happen
that.
fast, people. Watch out. It's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Uh-oh.
Get it.
What the viewer might not know is you guys wrote a proposal
Hmm.
and it was just kind of typed out and you sent it in and someone read it and nothing had been created of
Yes.
this game or the others and it was just written out that this was going to be the game you created and who would have guessed that it would have come to life.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of the things that was actually I'd love to hear your opinion about this, Ed, because like I have to assume that a lot of SBIR projects wind up not really going anywhere. There's a lot of small businesses with a lot of dreams that are not yet tested, and they get this opportunity to make something, but the difference between making something and then getting something to like get traction and stick and become a business that's sustaining is not just whether or not they made something great. There's a million variables that go into whether or not something is going to become persistent. But I feel like that was the beauty of the SBIR system. It's got that I like right in it. It's like try something new, try something innovative, and
Hmm.
it's a way for American businesses to like make something weird and
Yeah,
see
take a risk.
take a risk, make something new, make something transformative. And maybe it doesn't pan out, but I just love that the SBIR program exists because it gave like you said, so many other places were like, oh, I guess games are where it's at.
Yep.
Once we got this one going, and that's just so cool. Um, and you know what? Maybe some of those games stunk. That's okay. I think I think in terms of the investment and in seeing whether or not you can create new business opportunities, and new transformative products that can change how things work, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, we got some. I agree, and it's cool to see we've got some people in the chat here. Hi Gigi, hi Brandon. Brandon, I saw your comment on our other video, and I just wanted to say thank you. We do intend to keep putting out cool content like this, trying to show as
Mhm.
much of inside information as we can about the games and learning space.
Mhm.
And to answer your question, I think it's been really exciting how the space has expanded since we started 20 years ago.
Mhm.
I think we had kind of touched on this earlier. I'm not sure if you were here in the live stream, but um, when I first started at Filament about 11, 12 years ago now, a lot of the conversation was about justifying games in
Yeah.
the minds of educators or in the minds of corporate buyers, whoever might be looking at games as a learning intervention. Because at Filament we've done stuff for everything from preschoolers all the way to elders and elder care, so it really runs the entire gamut. Human beings should never stop learning in our opinion, so there's
Mhm.
really not an age limit on it. But in terms of how the space has expanded, we've seen a lot more of the conversation turn into how games are impactful and where they fit, the best use cases for them, how they fit into a broader media mix. They certainly aren't a silver bullet that replaces all other forms of
Mhm.
learning media, but they are an incredible tool and they create advantages that other media can't match. So we're really excited that games have sort of established themselves as a learning media and as a learning medium, I should say, and now it's kind of like, where do we go from here from that foundation,
Mhm.
and how do we refine and build on that foundation. um, so I want to bring the conversation back a little bit to the SBIR program now that we've got 3 flowers on this
Mhm.
toad lily and it's basically off and running.
Yeah, I'm just going hog wild on this bad boy. I
Yeah.
think it looks like in theory maybe I could get 4 or 5. Let's see. I could build another flower there.
Okay.
Leaf, leaf. So I could get another flower, but you know what? This is going to be successful, I think. So I'm going to stick with this plan.
It looks great. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, So, Ed, going back to some of the other tools that were getting made at the time, what are some of the other noteworthy titles that you would list out from those days? I'm curious to know, outside of Reach for the Sun, like are there others that you'd put up as kind of like a standards that you would hold the rest of the program to, or the kind
Yeah.
of the optimal thing that the program can produce?
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, within this project, you guys also had "You Make Me Sick."
That's
We
right.
could we could do that. We
Yep.
could do that next week. There was Crazy Plant Shop and Cell Command,
Yeah.
and I think Body Command was one in there too. There
Yep.
were five.
Yep.
So it
Hmm.
was an insane proposal, and I think
Mhm.
you got four of them done during the project.
Mhm. Body Command
So
had challenges. We had a lot of ideas for that game. Um, but yeah, You Make Me Sick. You Make Me Sick was actually, maybe that is worth playing because um that was very controversial. Uh, a game where you are the virus and you're attempting to get somebody sick was considered a controversial way to do this. Oh my goodness, I don't have enough water. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make it, guys.
you
Um,
guys won the video game challenge with "You Make Me Sick."
That's right.
So
yeah.
Way
in
back in the
terms of
day.
like the program, I mean that was
Mhm.
the first probably big thing that ever happened in the program. Like that,
Mhm.
one of the awardees won this major national
Yeah, that was
award.
real cool.
And then the Reach for the Sun. You guys sent at that point. I was like, I've got to try these games out. So I
Mhm.
was like at the Department of Education
Mhm.
playing games at my desk. So I got some looks for that. I was like, yeah, my
Nice.
job's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool. Thank you very much. And I started demoing just about everything I would get. and Reach for the Sun came, and I brought it home, and my daughter was about uh, 8 or 9 at the time, and I was like, okay, we're gonna play this game about photosynthesis, and I, Dan, was not as smooth as you at the controller. I was working as hard as I could, but I didn't know that I had to use starch as part of the
Oh yeah.
part of the game. So we started in April, and my daughter Maddie was really pumped up and saw what I was doing. We got to through the summer, and then all of a sudden it was November, December, and I hadn't been using starch, and the sunflower keeled over and died. And my poor daughter, I made her cry. So I did call up the Dans, like, you guys made my daughter cry because I killed the sunflower. But the great news was that a pop-up appeared, said, the good news is you did enough work,
Mhm.
that you planted a seed. You're going to get to give it another shot next
Mhm.
spring. And by the way, you got to use starch. It's the energy here of the
Mhm.
equation. So I got my act together, got that sunflower to grow, and my daughter was jumping up and down with the greatest joy. And I always believed in the power of learning games, but that was like the true turning point, that I was like, oh my gosh, this is some powerful stuff, in the best way. So at
That's
that
awesome,
point,
Ed. I didn't know that story. That's awesome. Yeah.
I had Reach for the Sun in every event that I ever did the rest of my time at
Mhm.
Department of Ed, and it kind of became like the logo of the program. I had it on the the website, the
Oh,
big
that's
picture
really
of the
awesome.
sunflower, and what a great story. But so I do believe that that your impact in this area kind of opened the floodgates to so many other developers. So Shell Games came on board a couple of years later, developed Happy Atoms,
Mhm.
and was in Target, with Happy Atoms,
Yeah.
and and their VR game Whole Lab Champions. Strange Loop Games
Oh yeah.
uh, was the most sort of commercially successful game with Eco,
Hmm.
still on Steam, still has a huge community.
Mhm.
Won the climate change game challenge from Games for Change. Was recognized by the United Nations as a climate intervention for students. That one is in the Minecraft genre.
Sure. Yep.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, check that one out, and I want to definitely catch up with John, who is the creator of that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that game
Um,
has some really fascinating mechanics where you kind of create a constitution with your fellow players, and you have to sort of there's like this governance involved in the sustainability aim of the game, and it's really demonstrative of, tragedy of the commons and all these things that impact our real world.
Mhm.
So that could be a civics intervention for a whole year, that all
Totally.
students are creating this have a pristine virtual world, and they have to come up with the rules and figure out how to sustain it.
Yeah.
CodeSpark had been very successful with the FOOs,
Yep.
um, and then they applied to extend it to make it more of a story-based intervention. That was a massive uh, hit especially during COVID. Um, More than 10 million players of that, and that they ended up getting
That's
acquired.
amazing.
Teachly and Numbershire both were funded right around 2011, right after you guys, and were sort of the first to create math, uh, K through 5 kind of math puzzle game based learning with intervention built around it. I mean, there were 50 or 60 companies that got funded to develop games. The impact of the program I led in the area of game based learning was really, really impressive
Yeah,
and
it's awesome.
exciting, that a government program would go in that direction.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All independent reviewed, reviewers, I think, just wanted to make that impact in the field, and saw game based learning as an important way to do it.
Mhm.
Well, I'm obviously biased because I've benefited directly, but I think that these are the kinds of programs that I would love to see more of, and the kinds of um, allocations, budget allocations that to me are this is like the right way to spend the funds in America is creating jobs and innovation and impactful technology that changes people's the course of their lives for the better. I
Mm-hmm.
know, you know, this an interesting, I guess, aside, but one of our recent games that we had put up on the MetaQuest, which is a robotics game, that was also funded by a similar program at the National Science Foundation. We saw a review come in where someone was saying, because I've encountered this game, I am going to pursue a career in robotics. And it's just amazing to think about how, you know, butterfly effect or whatever you want to call it, like you starting this program, getting Filament off the ground, getting our ability to pursue more innovative funding and or more innovation funding, I should say, has created games that are now generating real roboticists out in the world and changing people's courses of their lives for the
Yeah.
better, which I think is just amazing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Brand. That is like, over the years, we've obviously, yeah, we've made lots of cool stuff that has helped people learn. But yeah, when people reach out to us and say like, this changed what I want to do with my life, that's those like moments really stick with you.
Yeah, I think that like those are the moments that to me, justify all the struggles and the
Yeah.
obstacles and challenges that you encounter trying to make technology that
Hmm.
has a benevolent aim, you know,
Hmm.
because there's a lot of that out in the world. So I want to talk to Ed a little bit about, you talked about the program that you had led, and I know there was also this expo that went along with it that I think, a lot of those participants that you had just mentioned were also engaged with that. So and I know we had participated once or twice as well over its tenure. So tell me a little bit about the Ed Games Expo that was founded back in 2013 and the legacy of that event.
Yeah. And back to your point, the amount of students who literally view you guys as like rock stars. When you come to the Games Expo, they
Now we're
couldn't
getting
get enough.
ridiculous, Ed.
No, they couldn't get enough of playing the games and talking to you while they were doing it at the tables. So yeah, 2013 government shut down. I was frustrated because I was leading this program. You guys were doing important work, and the work was coming to a halt. And I was thinking we've got to figure out a way to get the information to the public about the impact this program's having and the work it's supporting. So it was through this Ed Games Expo to first of all get Department of Education and White House political appointees aware of the impact of the program. So we did the first one at the Department of Education building, and then next year we moved it out into an industry building. And the first one of those events was at a place called 1776, and
Mm.
we actually blew out the power of 1776. We had 50 game developers there, and lights were out after half hour. So
LAN party.
Mhm.
exactly, that
That's
was kind of
awesome.
of the era. But no, the purpose of the event was to showcase the impact of all these government programs that were investing in innovative forms of learning technologies, including learning games. And also, the event, which we did 9 times, became about building your capacity by introducing you guys to researchers, to
Hmm.
licensing partners, funders, to support you in sustaining the initial investment. So we did the event the last 4 years at the Kennedy Center. Perfect place to bring a place like Reach for the Sun
Hmm.
to show the art and the creation that was needed, the design, the
Hmm.
music that was needed to create this masterpiece. And great event. That was important. About 60 different programs in government ended up participating. They had funded a game or an education technology, and they brought it there to show the public. So, National Endowment for the Humanities, National Endowment for the Arts, NSF, NIH, Department of Defense, NASA,
Wow.
and so on and so on.
Hmm.
So just really proud to produce that event.
That's really cool. I forgive me for not knowing this, but I wasn't aware that it was so many different agencies participating at once. That's really incredible.
Yeah, and the idea was to show the ROI to the public. Dan, speaking to your point earlier, I did after my time ended last March, I spent a few months doing a study to understand the economic and social ROI of
Mm.
SBIR. Between 2013 and 23, I surveyed every company that got an award. 74 out of 100, I think five commercially launched a product they developed. So
Dang. Wow.
75% hit rate there. Now
That's
that didn't mean
awesome. I had no
they
idea.
didn't
Yeah.
yeah, they didn't all go to scale, but 130 million users across those projects. And then if you're talking about ROI, there was a $91 million investment during the 10-year period, and the companies generated $830 million. It was a 9-to-1 return on the investment in terms of
Amazing.
revenue, follow-on funding, or
Hmm.
about, I think, 20 companies exited. And so incredible success in creating product that was
Hmm.
research based, that reached large amounts of users, and then an economic return that is kind of second to none in terms of stimulating innovation.
Very cool.
That's crazy, man. Those are crazy numbers. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Talk about a legacy. I think that, it's just,
Yeah.
if anyone ever asks, you can just say, look at the scoreboard.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, thanks to you guys and all the companies. You guys are all mission based. Nobody went into this to make a quick exit. If you had done that, you would have applied to a different agency maybe,
Hmm.
or gone into defense or pharmaceuticals. But
Right.
in education, every single developer I ever met wanted to make that impact, and you've done it.
Very cool. So I know we've only got about 5 minutes left. I think I kind of want to ask one sort of synthesizing question, in terms of where we're at these days, and from your sort of rarefied perspective on innovation and education, where do you think the space is going from here, and what do you think the future holds?
I'm really optimistic about the space because I know that you guys are the ones working on the challenge.
Oh man.
Hundreds of companies like you. Um, so despite what happened with my work and at my institute and the field, from that perspective, you guys didn't miss a beat. And obviously, kind of more and better research is needed. So we've got to figure out ways to support you in getting access to schools
Hmm.
to get feedback, to strengthen your products, and to do studies to validate your products, to show how they're working, when they're working, for who they're working. For school leaders, we need to get them that information about all the tools they could use if they only knew about them. But
Hmm.
in terms of like innovation, I, threading the needle with AI and figuring out how to make it an incredible tool
Totally.
uh, is so exciting. And there are a lot of concerns about it, but I mean, in terms of potential, we literally could like reach every kid in this country with the best resources. So that's kind of an exciting opportunity.
Hmm.
Anytime, anywhere. I mean, we could create um, students to be creating these games that we're looking at right here.
Hmm.
That's right. Well, I want to also quickly address the question that came in through the chat, because I think it's somewhat related, which is, what does market success look like in this space? I think, from my point of view, it takes a lot of different forms. There are certain entities where they've gotten endowment because they're working on a specific mission that is backed by certain interested funders in the economy, and they're going to support it like that. I think when you're facing schools, a lot of times what you're trying to do is align to, like we had said earlier, whatever their ecosystem looks like, whether
Hmm.
that's from a device or distribution point of view. I know a lot of people getting their content into schools are going through distribution channels that are very well established. So that's certainly something to think about. Is like, if you're interested in specifically classroom games, it can be very difficult to go in without using the traditional channels. So, research that. But it really is all over the place in terms of what success can look like. I think our partners at iCivics, for instance, have more than 200 million plays of all their games. That is, to me, in some ways, the epitome of success for game-based learning.
Yeah.
Is like a platform with really robust usership,
Mhm.
and very obvious impact on its target audience. And of course, that is it's part of a much larger and very important system um, of education. So there's not a really clean and simple way to answer that question, unfortunately. But I will say that SBIR is a great way to get the seed funding for what you're trying to accomplish,
Mhm.
and then the program itself is intended to truly act as seed funding. So when you're out there and you've got your MVP created, now you're looking at pursuing additional funding sources, whether that's through a publisher or through another entity and that kind of thing. And SBIR actually has great or had great handholds for that as you were going through the program to help you get there. So
Mhm.
um, I hope that answers the question. I think I think when I look at um, something like ABC Mouse, for instance, as like a super successful education um, games super successful educational games platform.
Mhm.
It's very much aligned to the way schools consume content. So it's very bite-sized. It's
Right.
very standards aligned. You have to think differently about how students are consuming games and like whether they have the time to get into something during a classroom period. There's
Mhm.
all kinds of different things to consider there. So
And a commercial product that, if you're a parent, it's something you might give to your kid.
Right.
yep, that too. All right. Well, Ed, thank you so much for joining us for today's show. We really appreciate it. It has been an absolutely fascinating examination of how we got here. I certainly learned some things
Mhm.
about the history of this company that I wasn't aware of. So thanks again for
And
joining us
Dan,
today.
I was really happy you were able to like remember how to do this. It's been a while, and you pulled it out.
I gotta tell you, I didn't remember. I'm just I'm just playing it.
It's just that well
I was,
made.
yeah. I remembered some of the rough strategy, but I am pretty pleased with myself with five fruits this time. Kablamo.
That's a record.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Put it in the books.
beautiful. That
Yeah.
cactus will be a cactus again next year.
Mhm.
It's locked in.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you
Thanks,
everybody for
guys.
joining us for today's stream. That'll be the end of it. So yeah, thanks again, Ed, and we'll see you all next time.
Yeah, you got to come back for You Make Me Sick, Ed. That'll be super fun.
Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. All right.
All right, cool.
Thanks
Thanks for
everybody.
having me. Thanks, guys. Bye bye. See you.